So it is 10 o'clock, so we will get started. Again, my name's Dave Hodge. I'm the president of Zimtu Capital Corp, your host today. And this is a special meeting as Stephan Bogner from Rockstone Research is going to give us an overview of the Fluorospar market. Then we will hear from the three companies that are in Zimtu's stock holdings. It's quite interesting because we have quite a variety of share prices, quite a variety of stages of development, all the way from early stage exploration to near-term production. And one in the middle where Fluorospar is basically a byproduct for them, which can have its own advantages. And anytime you have an advantage, there's always a disadvantage. But still, it gives the investor the ability to choose between the three companies. Or, of course, you could get all three just by buying Zimtu stock. That's my one little sneaky plug for today. The symbol is ZC. Now to get things started, I would like to introduce Stephan Bogner from Rockstone Research. Stephan's been with Zimtu for a long time and has done some great things for us, and we look forward to his presentation on Fluorospar. Stephan, maybe you could also just say a few words in German for any of our German investors that are on the line. On that note, we will have Rockstone Research report, then who's next? Commerce?
What's that?
Commerce, and then Seville and ARS will follow.
Okay. So, and then we'll have a question and answer period. But feel free, if you have a question, just unmute yourself. We will see that and give you a chance to ask your question. Or, of course, you can use the Zoom messaging facility. Colton, just tell us where that is on.
Yeah, super easy. Just at the bottom of your screen, the chat button. I'm sure a lot of you have used Zoom before, so you know this already. But yeah, bottom middle screen, there's a chat button. You can just ask your question right in there.
All right, Stephan Bogner, take it away.
Okay, will do. Thanks for the introduction and setting this all up, Dave, Colton, and the entire Zimtu team. So hello everybody from Canada, Germany. Schönen guten Tag auch von meiner Seite an alle Deutschsprachigen. Wenn Sie irgendwelche Fragen haben, dann können Sie das gerne nach den Präsentationen der einzelnen Firmen auch machen. Und Sie können die Fragen auch gerne auf Deutsch stellen. Dann übersetze ich die auch auf Englisch, wenn Sie wollen. So, yeah, my name is Stephan Bogner. I run Rockstone Research. This is a website which you can see in the background here. I cover exploration and mining companies as well as technology ventures. So make sure visit rockstoneresearch.com to find out more about myself and the companies that I have currently under coverage. Okay, so take a look at this beautiful crystal. It looks like a perfectly shaped huge diamond, but actually it's not a diamond, it's fluorite. And of course it's not worth as much as a diamond in that size, which would be many millions of dollars. But the difference to a diamond is that fluorite actually has huge industrial importance. And without fluorite, many major industries around the world would not work and might even come to a standstill. So, and as you will see in my presentation today and also in the presentation of the companies, the danger was never as big for the Western world to be cut off from Fluorospar, as most of the global supply is controlled by China. So while diamond is no doubt also beautiful, diamonds are basically only important to the jewelry industry. Fluoride, on the other hand, has such a more important role in today's world that I think many people and also investors, they underestimate how critical fluoride really is to the Western world. And it would be somewhat bold for me to call fluoride the most important commodity on this planet today. But honestly, I cannot think of any other commodity being more important to modern life. So after these presentations today, I hope you can find or even name any other commodity which you think is more important than fluoride and fluorspar. And yeah, here's another fluoride crystal in both the typical colors of green and violet. It's polished. Here's a rough one, a rough coarse grain fluoride. And here I show you a couple more pictures of some really nice fluoride crystals from all around the world. Violet is not the only color. It actually comes in a lot of different colors. It's such as white, blue, green, yellow, and pink. And the word fluoride is actually derived from the Latin verb fluere, which means to flow. So let's go with the flow and get started. Today's presentation is all about Fluorospar, which is the industrial name for the mineral fluoride. And many of you probably have heard about this commodity before, but I think the reality is that not many investors know much about this industrial mineral, or they don't even follow it. And those who even took a brief look at the fluorspar market, they probably find it boring or too complicated, or even not as sexy as gold, silver, or any other shiny metal or commodity. Yeah, and the reason for that is quite simple, in my opinion. It's because you don't hear much about fluorspar in the media, on the internet, or even from newsletter writers. And the question is, why is that? So I think, or I even bet, it's because there are so very, very few publicly traded companies focused on fluorspar. And most of the fluorspar miners around the world, they are private companies. Most are from China, or they belong to multi-billion-dollar chemical and industrial companies. So why should an analyst or anybody else cover the fluorspar market? So there are not really many reasons to do so for an analyst or an investor if there are basically no primary fluorspar companies listed on stock exchanges in the Western world. So I'm all the more happy and excited that the executives of 3 publicly traded companies are with me here today, who are all more or less focused on fluorspar. We have James Walker, it's the CEO of ARS Strategic Mining. It's trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol ARS and with a current market cap of 50 million Canadian dollars. Then we have Mike Hodge. He's the CEO of Saville Resources, which also trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, and the symbol is SRE with a current market cap of 4 million. And then we have Chris Grove, the president of Commerce Resources, also trades on the TSXv with the symbol CCE and a current market cap of 27 million Canadian. So all of these companies, they also trade in Germany and the US market. Before these gentlemen now do their presentation, let me give you a brief overview about the fluorspar market and explain why I believe that investors should put more focus on this fascinating fluorspar market, and why I believe that these 3 companies here presenting today are very special and really a very rare breed of companies, just because they are focused on fluorspar and listed on stock exchanges in the Western world. So first of all, here's the disclaimer. Please note that everybody talking here today will be using forward. Am I back on? Yeah. So I'll be using forward-looking statements, and that there's no guarantee that any of those statements will come into effect. Check out the company's public filings on cedar.com for a more complete discussion of the risk. I hold equity in all of the featured companies, and I'm being paid by Zimtu Capital, which company also holds equity in these companies. And all of these companies featured here today pay Zimtu for this presentation and other activities. Okay, let's get started. And let's get back to the initial question about why you don't hear much about Fluorospar in the media or the internet or from newsletter writers. And yeah, my number one reason is clear, and I already mentioned it. It's because most Fluorospar miners are privately held. They are not on a Western stock exchange. They are mostly from China, or they belong to a multi-billion-dollar chemical or industrial company. So yeah, there's no real incentive for anybody to cover the market. Here you can see two recent market reports from some research houses. The one on the right, the report, it costs $2,900 for single users and $5,800 for a company. And they also give free teasers, which you can see here. But they only provide like a snapshot of the Fluorospar market, but no real data, no numbers, nothing. And here you can see a list of some industry players in the Fluorospar market. I checked them all out, and as you can see, most of them are private companies, and most of them are actually from China. And those few which are listed on stock exchanges, they belong to multi-billion-dollar chemical or industrial companies. So this is the other reason why you don't hear much about Fluorospar. It's because it's really difficult to find recent fundamental data about the Fluorospar supply and demand picture, and also the prices. Give it a try yourself. Google Fluorospar, and you will see that you only find like those kinds of market reports from big research houses, which cost a couple $1,000s. And at best, you find only old data from a few years back. Yeah, moreover, Fluorospar is not traded on an exchange like gold, for example. So Fluorospar prices are directly negotiated between buyers and sellers, and there are several different prices, such as FOB China or FOB Durban in South Africa. And here on these charts, you can see that the Fluorospar prices, they have been rising sharply over the last years. Until 2018, we can see here, and now they are somewhere in the range between $400 and $600 per metric ton. But again, prices may be very much different in the US or in the EU or than they are in China or Africa or elsewhere. And mainly and basically it depends on the grade, the quantity, and the long-term supply commitments. So offtake agreements are very important to consider. But when you look at these charts, you see that the prices were in a steep upward trend and are now like 5 times higher than in the year 2000. Yeah, to make it more complicated, there is not only one single Fluorospar product, but there are several different ones, each with its own price and fundamentals. On the one hand, we have acid spar with a grade and purity of at least 97% calcium fluoride. And then you have met spar with a much lower purity of about 60 to 85%. And then we also have ceramic grade Fluorospar with a purity between 85 to 95%. But the quantities are globally very little, as it is used in the glass and the ceramics industry. For example, cooking utensils such as these, you probably know those non-sticking pans from Tefal. So yeah, naturally you would think probably that the more pure acid spar has a higher market price than met spar. But yeah, in recent years, met spar prices were sometimes bizarrely higher than acid spar prices, which is of course not normal, because it costs much more to produce a higher grade acid spar than met spar. However, yeah, this bizarre price phenomenon, it shows actually how the Fluorospar market is escalating, because it's really difficult for end buyers to get product. Metspar is used almost exclusively for iron smelting. So the steel industry is the main driver for this product. So if there's little Metspar supply available and the steel industry needs more of that product, then the price goes up, possibly even higher than acid spar, which the latter, like acid spar, is primarily converted to hydrofluoric acid. It's used in the chemical industry along with the aluminium industry. And yeah, because hydrofluoric acid, it's used in the electrolytic recovery of aluminium during the smelting process. Yeah, so Fluorspar is used in those two gigantic industries, steel and aluminium. And without Fluorspar, both of the production of steel and aluminium, they may even come to a standstill or at least face major difficulties. Moreover, the chemical industry is another major industry which needs Fluorspar. For example, Roskilde, they estimated that half of all new medicines, they contain Fluorspar derivatives. So imagine if the Western world is running out or is being cut off from Fluorspar, then the production of pharmaceuticals is in real danger, and even a new health crisis may emerge just because of a lack of a Fluorspar. So you have to understand that China accounts for more than half of the global Fluorspar industry, and the total supply worldwide it's rather limited and small when you consider potentially strong demand going forward. So yeah, this is a real danger for the Western world, and the reason why actually the US, they have classified Fluorspar as a critical and strategic mineral. And this is because the United States, they are 100% import reliant on Fluorspar. At the bottom here, you can see that hydrofluoric acid, the demand in the United States, you can see it in light blue. It's expected to grow very strongly over the next years. And now there is another very interesting use for hydrofluoric acid, especially for everybody investing into exploration and mining. Well, hydrofluoric acid it's also used for analyzing drill core and rock samples. Of course, you may know that there are also other kinds of acids and also the fire assay method used in the recovery of minerals. But one of the more effective dissolution procedures is this so-called multi-acid or 4-acid digestion, which uses a combination of hydrofluoric acid, nitric acid, perchloric acid, and hydrochloric acid. And it's because these 4 acids in combination, they are very much suitable for a very wide and broad range of elements, and they are very effective in dissolution these minerals. So because hydrofluoric acid dissolves silicate minerals very effectively, these digestions are often referred to as near total digestions. And yeah, by the way, silicates, they are the largest and most important class of minerals and make up around 90% of the earth crust, and they include minerals like quartz, feldspars, micas, clays, amphibole and pyroxene group, and many other minerals. So one of the most effective procedures to dissolve silicas is hydrofluoric acid, which is not only used in analyzing drill core and rock samples, but also, and even more importantly, in the mining industry. And as you probably know, after mining ore, it goes into the processing facility where oftentimes hydrofluoric acid is used to separate ore minerals from the surrounding gangue or barren rock material. So yeah, you see, Fluorspar is not only vital and very much essential for such major industries like steel, aluminium, chemicals, and healthcare, but also for the exploration and mining industry. Yeah, now, guess what? China dominates the fluorspar supply side, and more than half of all fluorspar comes from China. Before 2017, that wasn't really a problem because fluorspar prices, they were at a 5-year low, and the supply, it far exceeded the demand. But then in 2017, China became a net importer of fluorspar. And look at the chart on the right and how much more metspar and acid spar China has been importing since 2017. It's really mind-blowing, and the reason why this market is really escalating since then. You can see then, and also in 2018 and 19, the demand for fluorspar, it increased very much, and the prices, they hit new highs every year. And at the same time, several mines in Southeast China, they closed after failing environmental inspections. So since those supply disruptions in China, they hit the international markets, the fluorspar prices outside of China and also on those long-term contracts, they have recorded significant increases. Yeah, so those tough environmental inspections in China, they are reported to continue in China, and these Chinese experts, they have continued to decline. And yeah, look at the chart at the top. China is exporting less and less fluorspar. And in recent years, China has become a net importer of fluorspar, which this resulted in the market to totally flip upside down. It's because for decades, China was a net exporter, and now they are looking everywhere around the globe to find more fluorspar supply. They are investing in those companies, and they're even taking them over. And the reasoning for that is very simple. Look at those two pie charts below. On the left, you can see the steel production in 2008, and the black is China. And on the right, you can see the same pie chart 10 years later, and that China is now producing so much more steel, and it's actually more than half of the world's steel output. So China is not only exporting steel, but it needs a lot of steel for its own infrastructure as it builds out it domestically. Yeah, now check this out. Because of COVID-19, the steel market was hit dramatically in 2020. But that is expected to rebound this year and also the next years. So take a look at, for example, NAFTA. It's the North America, USA, Canada, and Mexico in 2020, minus 20% in steel production output. But this year, it's expected to even grow by 6.2%. Similar picture for Central and South America. Last year, minus 17%, and this year, plus 12%. Europe, minus 16% last year, and this year, plus 10%. And yeah, similar picture around the world. Steel production is making a comeback this year, and they will need a lot of fluorspar for this growth. So I would expect fluorspar prices rather to appreciate strongly going forward, especially with China likely to increase, being a net importer of fluorspar. Yeah, there's currently no fluorspar mine production in the US, and they have been 100% import reliant since 1997 actually. And that's also the reason why the US government, they have put fluorspar on the top of its list as a critical and strategic mineral. Yeah, the United States, they want to break away from its foreign dependency on fluorspar supply, because the US, it's also the 4th largest producer of crude steel, and it's also the home of the world's largest manufacturer of hydrofluoric acid, which is Honeywell. So currently the US, they import 93% of its total fluorspar needs from Mexico, Vietnam, South Africa, and China. And currently they import about 440,000 tons of fluorspar every year. And most of it comes from Mexico, as this chart shows here. And yeah, more than 70% of Fluorspar, of those imports, they come from Mexico. Now, the problem with Mexican Fluorspar is that it requires additional refining, which is very costly in order to remove arsenic, which is unique to Mexican Fluorspar. And there are only 4 plants in the world that can complete the arsenic removal process. Honeywell and DuPont, they each own 1, and for this reason it does not really surprise that Mexico is exporting most of its fluorspar to the US, where both Honeywell and DuPont, they use fluorspar to produce fluorochemicals, such as, for example, hydrofluoric acid, fluorocarbons, and fluoropolymers. Yeah, by the way, fluoride is one of the most abundant minerals on the planet. It is widely dispersed in the Earth's crust. However, it's very rare to find high enough grades and quantities to justify a primary fluorspar mine. And for this reason, fluorspar is produced mostly as a byproduct from mining other commodities, especially rare earth elements in China, especially, and also silver, and predominantly in Mexico. So yeah, with Mexico being by far the most important fluorspar supplier for the US and also for Canada, recently we saw supply disruptions, and this actually revealed the urgent need to diversify supply chains. And we could see that in the media that more and more companies are waking up now, and they are realizing how dangerous it is to just to rely on a single supplier or country for their raw materials. So last year, recently, the Las Cuevas mine in Mexico, it was at risk of closure due to this COVID-19 safety restrictions, which was imposed by the government. And this actually prompted companies like GlaxoSmithKline and Cipla to send letters of urgency to the mine owner and the Mexican government to keep the mine in operation. And GlaxoSmithKline and Cipla, they are 2 of the most largest manufacturers of inhalers. And inhalers are used by patients with respiratory diseases. And this happens to be the persons who are most at risk to catch actually COVID-19. And about 80% of the world's inhalers, they use fluorspar, which is mined at this Las Cuevas mine in Mexico, which is the largest fluorspar producer in the world, and it accounts for over 20% of global supply. And this mine, it's owned by Orbia. It's a Mexican chemical company with a plus or minus $3 billion market cap. And the president of Orbia's fluorspar business, he said in this interview with El País newspaper, without the mineral, he's talking about fluorspar, the medical supply chain is dead. Many of our customers are out of supply, and we are receiving more orders because they are anticipating increased demand for COVID-19. So to make the matter worse for the United States, Orbia has a strategy, an evolving strategy to use more of its own fluorspar for downstream products such as hydrofluoric acids or aluminum fluoride. And this will actually result in lower fluorspar exports available for US companies such as Honeywell and DuPont. So while Orbia becomes more vertically integrated, there's a real danger for US customers that more and more fluorspar becomes unavailable to them. So here you can see how critically important fluorspar is to many large industries. Fluorspar is a highly valuable commodity with a global market value of around $3 billion US. However, Fluorspar's true value lies in the multiple downstream levels that you can see here, and these downstream sectors, they can significantly uplift the whole market, and this downstream market is estimated at $112 billion US. So the Fluorspar market in total, it's $100 billion market, and it's huge. And the importance of Fluorspar to this industry is also very critical. So also in these sectors, Fluorspar is oftentimes used. It's irreplaceable. It's a component that you cannot really look for alternatives. And in contrast to many other commodities, Fluorspar cannot be recycled. So the only way to meet this rising demand globally is to continue mining. And that's actually where the problem lies, because it's very rare to find new Fluorspar sources in the Western world. So here you see a free chart from one of those big research houses that I mentioned earlier, which sell Fluorspar market reports for a couple $1,000. And they actually see a very strong growth in Fluorspar demand in the next years. And note also that this forecast is from November 2020, so it's taking COVID into consideration. And this is the kind of growth of a relatively small market, supply market, that you want to be in if you can find actually a Fluorspar company that you can invest in. But the real question you have to ask yourself is, when you look at a demand growth chart like this, is where is all the supply going to come from? And will there be enough Fluorspar to satisfy this massive demand that is coming in the next year? And actually, what happens if there is not enough supply? And yeah, I'm going to read you a quote from informet.com, and they were saying, depleting high quality Fluorspar reserves, high costs of acid spar production, and likely continued pressure and perhaps further capacity reductions in China, combined with continuing demand for Fluorspar in chemical, steel, and aluminum markets, mean that there is a case for alternative and new Fluorspar sources to come online. Now, I want to add to that statement that if you can find new Fluorspar sources, especially on the North American continent, outside of Mexico, then these companies really could have a very bright future ahead, potentially, of course. So yeah, please do me and also yourself a favor and look around everywhere you can and tell me if you can find a publicly listed company in the Western world focused on Fluorspar. I bet you won't find many or any at all other than the ones presenting here today. But if you find another one, then you can be sure that you find something really special, something very rare. And in the past, we have seen that there were examples of very short-lived public Fluorspar companies because they were taken over by majors in a heartbeat. Okay. That's it from my side. Let's turn to the three companies focused on Fluorspar here. And 1 second, I put up this chart here. So yeah, let's start with Chris Grove. He's the president of Commerce Resources. It's trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol CCE, and it has a current market cap of 27 million. Wait, I'm going to show you the chart here. Here it is. It has a market cap of 27 million. Yeah, look at the chart. In Canada, they are really on fire. The volume has picked up massively after the recent closing of a non-brokered financing of, I believe it was more than 5 million Canadian dollars. And yeah, more than 100 investors from all around the world, they participated at this financing. And I'm really looking forward to the presentation from Chris Grove and what he plans to do with those millions of dollars now in the bank. And I have been following Commerce since 2013, and it's one of my favorite companies ever since. It's because I still believe that the time has right now, it has come for the company to escalate to the next level. And yeah, if you have any questions after this presentation, feel free to ask it. And yeah, I'm going to give it over to Chris now. Take it over, Chris.
Thank you, Stephan. That was an excellent presentation, an excellent overview of the Fluorospar market. Thank you. And it is a pleasure to be one of those future producers of Fluorospar. And we are certainly excited by our project, which is the Ashram rare earth element and Fluorospar deposit in Canada. In terms of our project, as Stephan mentioned, we just raised just over $5.2 million. 3.2 million was in a hard dollar financing. 2 was in a flow through, which is most eligible for using on-site drilling, environmental work, et cetera, et cetera. And we have more programs underway now than we really have ever had in the better part of the last decade. And so we're very excited about these programs, which include the continued work on our Fluorospar byproduct. In terms of the Board of Commerce Resources, just very quickly, the president of Zimtu, David Hodge, is also the CEO of Commerce Resources. We benefit from his many years of experience in the mineral exploration. We also benefit from the experience of our chairman of the board, Dr. Axel Hoppe, and his doctorate in chemistry, and his experience especially in processing tantalum and niobium ores. But as well, I would like to give a shout out to our project manager, Darren Smith, who has done an excellent job on both of our commodities, and his wife, Marae Smith, as she is our social and environmental sustainability manager. She is very tough, but she is very, very good. And because of the work she has done, we have been awarded by the Quebec Mining Association what is called the E3 Plus Award for excellence in terms of our environmental and our social outreach programs. Part of the culmination of that was a letter of intent signed by the dominant social group, which are the Inuit in Nunavik. And these two Inuit corporations signed this letter of intent with us, expressing essentially their interest in the further developments of our asset. In terms of the asset itself, as mentioned, it is in Quebec, but it's in the northern third of Quebec, which is called Nunavik. Nunavik has actually a more attractive jurisdiction, arguably, than the rest of Quebec, in so much as it is under the treaty, which is the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. And this is the most codified agreement for advancing, developing, and getting into production a mining project, arguably in North America. In terms of the steps that we need to take to advance our project. And in terms of also of our shareholder list, Zimtu Capital is our largest shareholder. Our largest shareholder was for several years the government of Quebec. They would be our third largest shareholder in total at this point in time. But we definitely benefit from the continued and ongoing interest of the Quebec government, and also their suggestion that the financing of a road in our area may be attractive to them. Now, in terms of the stage of Commerce Resources, as Dave said at the beginning, the 3 companies today you will hear are in varying stages of development. Commerce Resources released a positive preliminary economic assessment in May of 2012, and we have done a significant amount of optimization since that time. In terms of the Ashram would be technically called a gargantuan plug, which is, it is a carbonatite that outcrops its surface and then continues down to where it originates from, which is the center of the earth. Commerce Resources has defined a resource, which I'll show in the next slide, and we have drilled down to below 600 meters. And this is essentially consistent mineralization all the way down, excepting for the more valuable, what we call the middle heavy rare earth oxide zone, which lies right at surface and in which we would be mining for at least the first 10 years, if not a little longer. In terms of the resource itself, and for some reason my computer is jamming up, hang on. There we go. As you can see here, we have 1.6 million tons in the measured category, 27.7 million tons in the indicated category, and 219.8 million tons in the inferred category. On the right-hand side, on the top bar graph, you can see the percentage of fluorospar, 7.7, 5.9, 4.5% fluorospar. But in the lower bar graph, you can see the percentage of fluorospar in that metal heavy rare earth element oxide zone, which varies between 7% and 8.6%. That in total, considering the collective amount of this resource being approximately 249 million tons at an approximate 7% fluorospar, that is a huge fluorospar deposit. We believe it is the world's second largest fluorospar deposit. And as I said at the beginning, we've really only scratched the surface on this deposit. Since the release of that resource in 2012, we had added another 9,625 meters to the drilling, mostly infill, but also some step-out holes. So we expect a slightly larger resource when the pre-feasibility study is completed and released. In terms of the processing of the Ashram project, it does not get any more standard than this process flow sheet in the rare earth element sector. In terms of when we get to the magnetic separation stage, you take the slurry from the acid leaching and you essentially dump it into this machine that, I don't know, kind of looks like a large blow dryer at a beauty salon, and you flick a switch and out one side comes the magnetic concentrate, which is the rare earth elements, and out the other side comes the non-magnetic concentrate, which is the fluorospar. That basically means we produce met spar for free. There is no additional cost at the mag sep part of this process. So we have an ability to produce met spar really at next to zero cost. I mean, of course, you know, we would suggest that the fluorospar needs to bear some of the cost of the previous process flow sheet, but essentially there's no additional cost to produce met spar. In terms of our pilot plant, this is sitting at Hazen Research in Golden, Colorado, which is about a mile away from the original Coors brewery. And standing in the picture in the right-hand corner is Nick Hazen himself, standing next to the vertical flotation column. Hazen Research is really the world leader, at least in the Western world, of mining R&D. The original Moly Corp pilot plant was set up at Hazen Research in the 1960s, and it's still set up there. And our pilot plant is there, and it is about to be restarted. Hazen has done all of the upgrading of our acid-grade fluorospar sample in 2020, and we're very happy with the work that he did. In terms of the fluorospar byproduct, the two important points on this slide are that there is no additional cost to recovering the fluorospar, and there's no impact on the rare earth element recovery. Here is the money shot right here. This is a photograph of the acid grade, approximate 98% a fluorite acid grade fluorospar sample that was upgraded and with an almost complete success on the impurity removal from the original sample, which we had produced and news released in February of 2020. This is the sample that we delivered to the industry major as requested. And as you can see on this slide, as they then said, this is a commercially marketable product. So we're very excited by the production of this, and we're very excited about the expected or hoped for next steps with this industry major. In terms of that major, that would be Norfalco Sales, a division of Glencore, and they essentially made their intentions known to us 6 years ago when we reached out to them in terms of us trying to determine where the location of our downstream processing facility would be. They actually have a facility that closed in the last couple of years in New Brunswick, just outside of Belledune, and it's a perfect industrial site for our processing. But when we did a short presentation on the Ashram rare earth element Fluorospar deposit at that point, that's when they got excited because of this Fluorospar byproduct. Ultimately, just to follow that story along, it doesn't make sense. That area has been shut down by Glencore, the Brunswick smelter, and it makes more sense for us to have our processing downstream in Quebec, where it will most likely be. However, a year after that, that was when Norfalco Sales encouraged us to sign this a binding MOU with them, and we did so, and we are very much looking forward to next steps with them. In terms of our PEA and in terms of these positive economics, let me just mention Fluorospar was not mentioned at all as a byproduct in these economics. So yes, you can guess my excitement about having this Fluorospar byproduct included in our next set of economics. And in terms of the process flow sheet, with a 4,000 ton extraction per day and at an approximate 7% Fluorospar grading in the deposit, that yields 1.4 million tons of extraction per annum. And the Fluorospar component at a 75% recovery would be slightly above 70,000 tons of Fluorospar. And even at the Metspar price today, you know, use whatever figure you want, $300 a ton, $400 a ton, let's say 300. Well, that's an additional $21 million of profit onto the flow sheet. So yes, we're very excited about this, the presence of the Fluorospar and our next set of economics. In summary, let me just say that the Ashram project is located in a top mining jurisdiction globally. We have the right host rock for both rare earth elements and Fluorospar. As you will hear, Fluorospar deposits are not always carbonatites, but when they are carbonatites, then you have essentially unlimited amounts of resource of the Fluorospar as we are in the process of defining. Simple and conventional mineralogy allows us then to use to great effect simple and conventional metallurgy and simple processing. And at the end of the day, it's all about cost. And we would be a low cost producer. We have an excellent distribution in the rare earth elements. The Fluorospar byproduct potential is certainly something that we are in the process of proving up, and we look forward to releasing the economics. Any comments or questions you have in the future, you could certainly direct to any on our team, including Justin Schrun, who does investor relations for us and is a very valued team member, and myself or our project manager. In terms of the disclosure notice for the ongoing pre-fees, this needs to be here. And so at this point in time, I would just like to say I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here today.
At this point, perhaps I could introduce Seville Resources, run and operated by Mike Hodge. And he's here to tell us a little bit about where they're at. And they would be our earliest stage Fluorospar opportunity. And that is also reflected in their share price, which certainly could create a pretty interesting opportunity moving forward. Mike?
So Seville of the three companies is definitely the earliest stage in the terms of Fluorospar. Colton just brought up a map. In 2019, 2020, we re-assayed the core that we drilled in 2019 for Fluorospar because we didn't do it on the original drill program. We also re-assayed some of the core that Commerce drilled in 2008, 2010. This would be a byproduct for Seville, niobium being the primary, but we're getting quite excellent numbers for niobium in conjunction with the Fluorospar. Some of the better runs were 30 or 40% fluorospar, coming with niobium as well. There's also tantalum and phosphate in a number of these samples. It will definitely be niobium focused, and we have basically wrapped around Commerce's Ashram deposit. So it will be a combo story, and we look forward to working with Commerce to advance the fluorospar potential in our deposit as well as the niobium. There is a little bit more. Seville has been vetting a number of fluorospar properties in North America recently. Keep your eyes peeled. We may have something coming out quite soon. But we're short and sweet here at Seville. If you've got questions, fire away.
So at this point, I'd like to introduce ARS and the presentation by James.
All right. Yeah? Okay. All right. Right. Well, I won't go. I mean, Stephan's presentation was actually really good. I mean, if I wasn't involved in Fluorospar, he would have pushed me towards buying into Fluorospar. So, but just to talk a bit about the American market itself, because that's where we're concentrated at the moment. As Stephan mentioned, they're importing 100% of this mineral from abroad. He also mentioned they were importing about 500,000 tons, but I think that underlies the true numbers because they're importing a lot of fluorine and hydrofluoric acid as well, plus refrigeration units and items like that. And that's why fluorospar has been classified as a critical mineral. And it's got that designation because it basically means it's vital to the security of the United States of America. And so the reason why it's so important is it does go into things like steel, aluminium, refrigeration units, fluorine. Stephan mentioned again the medical applications as well, like asthma inhalers, where that one mine was supplying 80% of asthma inhaler active ingredients. It's becoming an increasingly difficult mineral to source. There's only several countries in the world that do it. I think I can count about 7 of them at the moment, and hopefully, thanks to our mine, we'll be joining that list very shortly. Even though it is abundantly distributed throughout the earth, finding economic concentrations of fluorospar is very difficult and it's very rare. And you get the very significant market difficulty of the demand rising much quicker than the supply can meet it. And so yeah, let's go to the next slide very quickly. So the American market breaks down a little bit into the acid spar and the met spar industries, but predominantly 2/3 of the market goes into the acid spar market, which is what we've tailored our project to try and do. So as soon as we've got hold of this stuff, we've been running metallurgical tests to create the acid spar product, and I'll talk a bit about this in a second. But I'll go on to the next slide and talk a bit about the background of this. So the way we actually came across this project wasn't deliberately going out to try and hunt fluorospar. It was because we were after a project that was close to production, that was close to cash flow, ideally permitted, and it's obviously very difficult to find all of these things. But one thing we did notice is that we got a technical report came across our desk with about a small mining operation in the state of Utah, and they were taking fluorospar out of the ground and not processing it and just selling it direct to steel mills. So their average grades must have been 70 to 80% that they're getting out of the ground. And this was very intriguing. So we took a trip down there to meet me and my geologist just to have a look around. And what had actually happened in the past is that the whole this mountain range, which is completely full of fluorospar, had about 50 different claimant holders. But they'd all died because they'd mostly been mining in the sort of 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they'd sort of passed on, and the whole mountain range had become available. and everyone's radar was off Fluorspar. So before we bought out the mine, we went and staked everything along the entire mountain range where we could find Fluorspar, and like it was everywhere. Like we, I think a half-hour walk across some of this territory, we kicked up like 7 Fluorspar pipes, whereas demonstrably purple, almost certainly high grade, and we got obviously quite excited about that, and we've been staking ever since on anything we can find, and recently. The geologist, he back calculated how the mountain range originally appeared so he could work out where all the pipes were. And from doing that, we knew all the areas to stake. And so we've been continuously doing that to get hold of the mine itself. And the mine itself, the guys who were mining it were also getting on in years. They were nice chaps, but they were looking to get out. So we brought them into our company, and we vended this project into ARS in February 2020, and we completed the amalgamation agreement and got trading about 11 months ago. And since then, we've done quite a lot of work, so we'll bring up some of that. All right, so the first thing we needed to do is on the permitted mining area. We did some initial drilling just to drill out the 2 ore bodies which we were going to attack to begin with. And so these were the ones that the guys have been artisanally mining. As you can see, those are our drill holes that we put in there, and we've constructed a 3D model of the Fluorspar deposit back to back with each other, and there's and that gave us sort of a couple years worth of production, which is all we really needed. And the histogram on the right of that diagram, that gives you an idea of the grades we were getting out of there. So they averaged about 70 to 75%, which is really, really rare. You don't really find that very often. Usually deposits of Fluorspar, you're looking in the region of sort of 5 to 15%, somewhere around there. Like the big mines down in South Africa, Seville, which had $100 million invested into it, I think they're at about 10%. But this was the reason why the guys were able to just take this stuff out of the ground and sell it. And so obviously we saw money signs, and it also means that it's not an expensive process to upgrade these averages to the ARS grade. So, all right. I mentioned a bit earlier how we worked out the original mountain range, how the thing would have looked before it slid and slid into sections. And that gave us an idea of where all the pipes would have originally occurred and where they would have been displaced to. So we made an approximate map, and we sent a junior geo walking around the mountain range, confirming a lot of the sites at top, and we put over 100 pipe locations onto our claims areas. We also staked a couple of other things that we'd missed that we picked up as well, and that gives us an enormous amount of potential mining sites for the next few years. In fact, we're at the permitted areas near the top. It's that most north central collection there, pipes. That's where the permitted areas at the moment. But if you look on the most northeast collection of pipes there, that's going to be our second mining area. That's the Bell Hill claims. The good thing is, because this is a critical mineral, we get all of our permits fast tracked, so we can start mining as soon as possible. And then while we're doing that, we can put that second mining site into production and have the two mining operations going along concurrently. So while we've been doing this, we've been oh, you jumped a slide. There we go. While we've been doing this, we've been the mining engineers have been putting together all the mine plans based on those initial diagrams of how ramps are going to look, how extraction is going to look. And our metallurgists have also been working in the background to create some acid spar. So I've just taken the 4 most recent metallurgical grades for acid spar. We're just trying to aim for that 97% and hit the required values. We can now routinely produce it. We're just working on recoveries of the acid spar at the moment. But to give you an idea of the progress on this at the moment, we were able to produce a 99.9% grade fluorspar if we want to now. We've also, we're looking at how met spar occasionally does creep up to be over the cost of acid spar. So we've refined our met spar production process as well, where we can produce a high grade met spar with over 90% recovery. So it just leaves us more product for selling. It leaves us higher margins, and we sit very comfortably in with what's going on at the moment. So this work, just quickly, this work is going on alongside Keith Minty, who's on this call at the moment. I saw he's our lead project engineer, and he's doing all the mine works, and then that includes infrastructure designs, plant ordering, equipment designation, and that's all going on at the moment. And we've put some orders in for different items. So with the intention of going to mine later this year. So next slide. Project location. So thankfully Utah is very mining friendly. We sit just about 3 hours south of Salt Lake City. We've got main roads going all the way up to the mine site. Our industrial estate has water, gas, and electricity already. We've even got rail running through the property, so we can use that. And we've spoken with Union Pacific about shipping to some of the offtake partners that we're talking with at the moment. Another good thing about Utah is that there's a lot of grants in place at the moment. So we're speaking to local governments, and they're very keen to get behind us and back this. So yeah, it's pretty lucky it's there. And final slide. So yeah, I've mentioned a bit about going into production. We've been gearing up for that for quite a long time, and that's where our focus is at the moment. So it's thankfully we don't have a lot of capital costs compared to a lot of other operations, because it doesn't need a lot of infrastructure. It is essentially taking very high grade out the ground, and very simple process to get it to industrial grade requirements. We just need to crush it, grind it, and put it through a flotation system, which is very old technology and very simple. And because the product's very pure, it doesn't have any sulfides, it's very high grade. Coming out of the flotation, we hit 97% very easily, and we can go above that if we want. We're just going to get into mining as soon as we can, with an estimate of about 5,000 tons of acid spar a month. I've written $500 a ton there, but it's creeping up more than that. So some of the brokers in Utah are talking about $600 a ton at the moment. And once we open up that second mine site at Bell Hill, then there's no reason why we can't go to 10,000 tons a month.
Thank you very much, James, and of course, Mike and Chris. Would be happy to take questions now. We'll start off with some of the questions that came through on the chat function. Colton, why don't you handle that?
Sure, yeah. So the first question for Aries, what are the capital needs for the next 2 years, and how do you expect to meet those needs?
Well, we don't need 2 years of capital, because we should be in cash flow before we reach the end of that period. But in terms of the next stage, we've done all the metallurgical work, we've designed all the plant. We just need to start ordering equipment and buying construction equipment. And really for that, we're looking at sort of 6 to 7 million US. It's not a lot of money. And a lot of those costs can be done through leasing arrangements as well. So I've been told not to name drop our partners until we've signed the proper contracts, but because I've been told off before. But we've got the debt financing all lined up for all of those things, and we've also got some grants lined up as well. But we've also got royalty options as well, which have been offered. But in terms of financing, we've got all of the capital costs taken care of.
Okay, and that kind of answers the second part of the question. When do you expect to become cash flow positive?
Well, there's some disagreement on this one, because and so what is Keith Minty? Oh, he's still there, damn it. So one of our directors, he runs a Fluorspar mine out of Asia in Thailand, and he's offered to give us a lumps plant, because and that will get us into production a lot sooner. I just need to convince the engineers it's a good idea and it can run a lot, but it doesn't affect anything else. Like the acid spa will go ahead. I just want to try and get that thing in a bit sooner because it's a 3-month installation period to get to lumps manufacturer, and that will be mid this year, and acid spa later in this year. So.
Okay, so the next question, is production still expected by October? What's the biggest risk that you face that could cause major delays?
Yes, it is, and the biggest risk has been COVID. It's caused us so many issues, like closed border, turned away staff, hotels being shut down, equipment we couldn't get supplied, labs closed down, geologists barred from entering the US because he tried to sneak in through several different borders. So COVID has been the real distraction here. Otherwise, we'd be way further along, especially things like getting assays done, metallurgy work. We've got all the assays in now, and so I would imagine if we can reduce some of the restrictions that are placed on things like equipment delivery and guys on site, then we should be flying, really.
So next question, who are ARES buyers, and are there already contracts?
So there's one of the big ones we've got is ThyssenKrupp, big German multinational company. They've run their own analysis on our product, and we've sent them all the up-to-date information. They've even pledged to invest in the company as well once we get going with this. Their initial demands from us were probably more than our production can meet, but like that gives us lots of room to grow into them. They were asking for sort of 10,000 tons of acid spar a month, which will take us a little bit of time to build up to, but as soon as the Bell Hill claims become a mine, then we should be able to meet those requirements. And what else was
there? When will you start making money, or when will you break even?
Well, because the capital isn't very, the capital amounts required aren't very much. I mean, breaking even to recover all the capital costs will take about less than a year of production, really. From the mining engineers' cash flow projections at the moment is looking at about $20 million profit a year. So, I mean, if you think, say, capital costs go all the way up to 10 million, it would be half the year. So.
Okay, question here from Marcus. When will ARES start mining? May, June 2021 with 500 tons per day?
Yep, that's the intention. Yep. So I would probably put it a bit later now. I'd probably put it June instead of May, just because of small things you can't predict, like assay grade delays, model delays, but certainly around then. I know obviously the engineers will be upset with me for predicting June, but if we can get that lumps plant in, then yes, absolutely, we'll be going by then.
Okay, and just a follow up, that would be 400 tons of metspar per day at 90% recovery. Or am I thinking?
Yeah,
wrong?
no, that's correct. Yeah, that's right. So, but hopefully more than 90%. We're already hitting 92. So on a big industrial thing where we can recycle it, then hopefully we'll get over that 90%.
Okay, and does ARES have any future projects that you're working on?
We do. Okay, one thing I'm barred from talking about, but we did buy the Liard project up in BC, and that demonstrated a few million tons of high-grade fluorspar as well. In fact, I bought this off Mike.
Here's a rock from
There's
it.
a rock. Yeah, there we go. So that's a rock from the Canadian Fluorspar project. So that's on the west coast. The reason why that looks very attractive is it's very high grade. It's very simple mining operation. It's almost the same as Utah. We can just copy and paste a lot of the mine plan over to the Canadian project. But it also just gives us the option of shipping out of BC to anywhere in Asia, which is struggling, and we can shake them down for more money because they're struggling to get it. So.
Okay, and I think there was one more question here about the assay results for the Lost Sheep mine.
Yeah. So, okay, so I know who that's from. They were delayed. In fact, they're about a month and a half delayed, really where they should be. But we do have them all now. So there will probably be, can I say there's going to be a press release next week? Is that allowed? All right, there might or might not be a press release next week about the assays. So they're all in now.
Okay, I think that's all we have for ARES. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them in here or unmute yourself. If there isn't any further question for Aries, we do have some questions for Commerce, Chris, if you're still there.
Still there.
So let's just take a look here. The first one was from Helmet. Who are your end buyer / off-takers, and if there are already contracts signed with CCE, and when will CCE start earning money and break even?
Well, it's going to be longer than Aries for sure. And ultimately, as we have the MOU in place with Norfolco Sales / Glencore, and arguably they're the world's biggest seller of Fluorospar products, or the world's biggest trader. I mean, obviously, we'll continue to curry favor with that relationship. As the news release that we had out on New Year's Eve about the delivery of that sample, and ultimately then their reaction to it, that it was commercially marketable, that's extremely positive. But, you know, when we'll be in production, I can only answer that by saying, you know, in the best case scenario, it would probably take us a minimum of 3 years to achieve production. And that would be, you know, a year for each of the subsequent economic reports, the pre-fees that we have done so much work on right now, and then the bankable, and the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment, which can't start until we finish the pre-fees, which then it takes a year and a half basically for that EIA. So you're looking at 2.5 years before arguably we can have a mining permit. So conservatively, I guess I should say 3.5 years arguably before production. In terms of the question about when we will be making money, besides, you know, immediately, but in terms of payback, you know, we would have to rely upon the next economic set of economics, the pre-fees, to answer that question more definitively. I can, you know, just point to the economics as they were in the PEA when the project had an internal rate of return of 44%. I can't say definitively at all or suggest that the project will have a 44% internal rate of return, but you know, we are certainly hopeful that that might be the case. So if that is the case, let's say, and the capex is similar to what it was in the PEA, then potentially you're looking at payback on the project in less than 2.5 years. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thanks. So James, we do have another question for Aries. So you earlier mentioned the possibility of creating your own hydrofluoric acid. Is this still a valid idea?
It is yeah, that is the long-term intention of the company, because just the margin on it alone, like if I can remember correctly, yeah, acid spar, say it sells for $550 a ton, hydrofluoric acid sells for $250 a pound. So it gives you an idea of the margin, or the markup rather, that we could have if we get the hydrofluoric acid facility. But the plan would be get into production, prove up a lot more resources, and we start drilling again in April as part of the Bell Hill expansion process. But once we get into production, we have cash flow. At that point, we move towards design for the hydrofluoric acid facility and putting the financing in place for that, and then try to get to that as quickly as possible.
I don't know who this question is directed at, but they're mentioning, is there any reference to the electrical vehicle market? Has your company been in contact with potential customers such as this?
I haven't been in contact with Tesla recently, but yeah, no, it's known about. So the electric battery requires high grade. It's the same basically principle as Teflon. It's a repellent quality. It prevents cathode decay, and so you need something like Fluorspar for electric car batteries, because it's just repellent. If you think about your smartphone as well, when you touch the screen and you don't get like grease from your finger, that's Fluorspar in your screen, and it's the same principle applied to the electric battery on the cathode. So they do need it, but I haven't yet been in contact with Elon. So.
All right. So I don't see any of the other questions. I'll give everybody another minute here. Dave, if you had anything to say.
Well, certainly, thanks very much for coming to this meeting today. I think it's been very informative, and now it's up to you to to take that information and use it for your own benefit. The only way to do that is to buy one of these three companies, or for that matter, like I said before, Zimtu, but they all are at different stages and present their own opportunity, but I think there's value in all of them. So thank you for coming. Again, my name's Dave Hodge, and it's nice to have you here in my boardroom.